You're listening to DraftKings Network.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller from the Academy Awards snub movie Dodgeball. You know, this election is a lot like Dodgeball. Kamala Harris is the average Joe underdog, and no, this isn't a time for jokes. You know what? It's way too important. Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Project 2025 will give him nearly unlimited power. We can't let him get anywhere near the White House. So, vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, see, that was better. The serious version was much better, right?
Paid for by Harris for President.
Warning, this product contains nicotine. Nicotine is an addictive chemical. If you're a smoker or dipper looking to make a change, you really only need one reason to do it. But with Zyn nicotine pouches, you can find many. Zyn is America's #1 nicotine pouch. It's made with only 6 simple ingredients. There are lots of options when it comes to nicotine satisfaction, but there's only one Zyn. Learn more about Zyn and find your reason to make a change by registering online at Zyn.com.
Welcome to the Big Suey, presented by DraftKings.
Why are you listening to this show?
The podcast that seems very similar to the other Dan Le Batard podcast.
I'm sorry, I'm not going to apologize for that.
In fact, the only difference seems to be this imaging.
I have been tempted in restaurants just walking past tables to grab somebody's fries that if they're just there. That hasn't happened to you guys?
I've done it.
And now, here's the marching man to nowhere, Fat Face, and the habitual liar.
Next Tuesday is a giant day. It is, of course.
Deadline day.
That was not rehearsed, even though it sounded like it was. We've got NFL trade deadline day next week, and Dianna Russini is a senior NFL insider for The Athletic. Scoop City is the name of her very popular podcast. I want to play for her some of the sound, embarrassing sound, from Jermaine Illuminor, the tackle for the New York Giants. He said in a game before he allowed 7 tackles and 2 sacks. I guess only 2 of the sacks were his fault. TJ Watt had 3 and a strip sack as well. This is what Illuminor had to say before the game.
Collectively about this line and what, proving to yourselves. When you look at a matchup like this for you, when you have, arguably the best defensive player in the NFL, how do you deal with it?
I love it. Shoot, I've been telling you I'm the most confident guy in this locker room, and I think you can see that through my play this year. And so I love it. I want to be on the island with them all day.
Dianna, can you give me, and thank you for joining us, a history lesson here? Outside of Lawrence Taylor, there are a handful of these guys doing it now. Myles Garrett, Micah Parsons, and this human being. But I have to go back to Lawrence Taylor to find a guy who's so unblockable that he continually gets strip sacks. TJ Watt as a player historically is what as a defensive player?
The best Watt player. Right. I think he's better than his brother at this point. Obviously, JJ is respected all around the league, a future Hall of Famer. I think we're at a point where there's no question his brother's better. And he's got his support, because do you see JJ last night on Twitter giving his brother all that love after his brother once again is just winning games for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Yeah.
I always love talking to people around the league about what they think about star players. Like, man, what would he look like in your system? And he's one of those players, probably along with Myles Garrett and Max Crosby, as just they're just a dream. Those are the guys that you build your entire franchise around. So, look, I can appreciate when a Giants player wants to at least show some confidence that, yeah, bring it on, let's do this. I wouldn't like it if he told the media there, like, yeah, I'm actually scared out of my mind. Our offensive line has been garbage for a century, but. That's not what he did. It's just the receipts. They kill you.
Do you really think J.J. Watt thinks his brother is better than him? Like, he might say that publicly. He might put it out on social media. That's classic J.J. But in private moments, there is no way J.J. is telling anyone that T.J. is better than I was.
Oh, no. No. He's doing exactly what he needs to do. I wonder if he'd be different, though, if he wasn't in the media now. Yeah. But... he's just like playing his brother off, trying to get him every award that he could possibly win, get him more money, I'm sure. But yeah, no, JJ Watt. There's no way JJ Watt thinks any human being is better than him.
At anything. I mean.
At anything. Making children, fixing the backyard,
playing an entire football game with an eagle on your shoulder pad.
Yeah.
Dianna, I saw after the game that Daniel Jones said that the strip sack was actually his fault because he was supposed to send the tight end in motion to chip and help out with the block there against Watt. So, I mean, I guess my question is like a macro one. Like, what did the Giants do with Daniel Jones now? What is Brian Daboll's hot seat status? Like, it's a pretty bad mistake to make in a season full of a lot of really bad mistakes.
I know, Jess. It's funny because I feel like we're seeing so much blame, people pointing blame when we don't normally see that, right? Like, where I feel like so many other teams are going, like, look at Jerry Jones. He's like, it's the coach's fault. It's the play calling. So I think that was Daniel Jones. Look, some of that was his fault, but I think that was also him taking the hit for something that wasn't entirely his fault. But look, just listen to Brian Daboll after the game. I mean, how many times did he mention that Daniel Jones just was not good enough? Usually the head coach is up there saying, we all got to be better. We all need to do more. But it is very evident that the New York Giants are out on Daniel Jones. Obviously, this was a decision this regime made. Obviously, Joe Schoen, the general manager, and Brian Daboll signed off on. They're the ones who made this happen. The same people that moved on from Saquon Barkley. So they chose Daniel Jones over paying Saquon, and now they're living in it. And we know that they weren't sold on Daniel Jones in the offseason because we saw it on Hard Knocks. We saw that they try to move up to get a quarterback. So now I feel like they're just living in this hell of, we don't really want this guy. He's tough as hell. He is. He's tough. I mean, that is one thing people always tell me about him is just he stands in the pocket and he's just getting slammed around every week, but he's still making mistakes that are costing them games and he's not able to take care of the football.
In my lifetime, Diane, I think there are only 5 that I have done this with watching football. I believe I thought on late drives, Lawrence Taylor's about to do something. I have thought of Reggie White is about to do something. Defensive players. Ed Reed is about to do something late in the game. Aaron Donald is about to do something. And Mike Ryan, late in that game last night, is saying, there will be some time here where the Giants have the football and TJ Watt is going to touch it. TJ Watt is going to get his hands on the football here. It's just such a rare thing with defensive players. I can count them on one hand.
Yeah, there are just not that many that can do that and completely change the direction of where it's going. We obviously always point to the offensive players being the playmakers, the one to do it. But when you're getting double, triple teamed every single game, because I think that's another element to this that you forget when you're watching these guys. They're already dealing with more than what the normal defender has to deal with. Every team is game planning against them. So obviously that is unique and special. And I don't know who's going to be the Bill Belichick to TJ, the way Bill Belichick talks about Ed Reed. We'll figure out who's going to be that coach one day who just goes on and just seems pretty in love with the guy. But I can tell you in Pittsburgh, he's certainly beloved by that coaching staff.
So right on time, everyone last week called the Ravens the best team in the NFL. So right on cue, they lose to the Cleveland Browns. I'm curious, Dianna, if you've touched base with your Cleveland Browns sources to see how they're feeling about things. Now, they didn't make just the Watson change. Their hand was forced there. Ken Dorsey took over play calling to coincide with the move to Jameis, and I'm curious what they're feeling about this season. Is it still pack it in, or do they actually think that they can go on a Flacco-like run now with Jameis?
Yeah, the Cleveland Browns are alive. They are back. They needed this win. I can't remember the last time the Cleveland Browns as an organization needed something to fall their way more than this game did, not, from ownership all the way down to the players in the locker room. How many times did we talk about this on the show? Like, everyone knows what the problem is. We all know. We understand the contract that they gave Deshaun Watson, but this team looked miserable on the field every week for a variety of reasons. So the fact that Jameis was able to spark some life, play calling's been changed over to Ken Dorsey, which is allowing Kevin Stefanski to do more with the entire team and sort of get his hands dirty in making sure that different parts of the game are better. The offensive line, That was the best protection I've seen from Cleveland all year. That's been their Achilles heel without a doubt outside of Deshaun.
Well, he holds the ball too long, though, too. Like, it's not just offensive line. Deshaun Watson, isn't he guilty of holding the ball longer than any quarterback in the league as the whole sport moves to getting rid of it quickly?
He does, but there wasn't a lot being done to help him in that situation, too, in terms of protecting him. And I think that's where this was becoming such a big problem because the offensive line wasn't doing what Stefanski wanted, knowing Deshaun Watson was going to be holding the ball so much. Now, Jameis isn't much better at it either. If you saw, there were certain times where you're like, Jameis, throw the ball. What are we doing? What are we doing? But the fact that he was able to create this much offense, and guys, it's one of these things where, when you're around teams and you hear about leadership, I never really got the feeling being around the Cleveland Browns that Jameis was this outstanding leader that was, giving and supplying answers to this locker room. He was loud. I don't necessarily believe that everyone was signed off in following him. So I think getting a win like this for Jameis, I think they now are going to start following more. He needed to back up a lot of those words. So I just think overall for what we all saw on television, the producer of Scoop City, she is the wife of a player on the Browns. And she told me that was the first time she left the game and sat in bumper to bumper traffic. And I said, well, what do you mean? She said, well, think about it. We're so bad. Everyone leaves early. She's like, people stay to the end of the game, right? And if that doesn't tell you just how great things are in Cleveland, they're psyched about traffic because that means maybe they're winning.
I will say this again, by the way, because the stats are jarring, right, given the contract that Deshaun Watson has. That's the first time the Browns have scored 20 points this season. And he threw for more than 300 yards. Jameis Winston did. Deshaun Watson hasn't done that in a Browns uniform.
Right.
It's a
no
bit,
interceptions as well.
It's a bit stunning. He had a fumble because he does hold the ball too long. He had a fumble that could have cost them the game because of where it is that it happened. Dianna, where are you on what the fallout should be with the way that Chicago Bears game ended?
In terms of how do you defend the Hail Mary that way? I mean, to me, when you're a player...
What was that? What just happened?
Hail Mary.
What just happened? Well, not just what should be the fallout? I hear people talking about firing people.
It's ridiculous.
It's
never going to happen again. It's a Hail Mary. It was a lucky play.
That's how Eddie Vedder would say.
Yeah, look. So I think one of the things about that, and I did that on Sunday where I was just reaching out to people around the league to just try to get an idea of like what happens in preparation on a football team. How much are you actually practicing defending that? And I guess a lot. That's what I discovered. I didn't realize that this is like part of things that you do during training camp. And we're seeing Hail Marys, pretty frequent this season, last season. So this isn't that weird or abnormal for the Chicago Bears to see. It's not some trick play that, Dan Quinn or Cliff Kingsbury stole from some high school varsity football team in Boston. This is a play that you are expected to know and even understand how to defend it from early years of playing football. So the fact that wasn't executed well, the fact that they didn't call a timeout, the fact that they didn't rush more than 3, there are so many parts of that are being shown to teams around the league, or at least teams are showing it as, hey, don't do this. Don't do it this way. So they went from being a team that was close to winning to now being the poster of what not to do.
Dianna, where do you stand on the 1 foot double tapping versus 2 feet down versus
Good
one
question.
knee is 2 feet versus one butt cheek is 2 feet versus one elbow is 2 feet debate?
So dumb. That was so dumb. I can't wait for the offseason, actually. I normally hang out outside the competition committee meetings because what you do is you just stand out there and you wait for them to come out and you bug the people on the committee. Mike Tomlin's one of them. And you just try to find out what they're discussing. They are going to be discussing that. There is like if I had a guess, and I want to see how this is going to be sort of taken care of, because how is that not a touchdown? I mean, that was so clear. And the fact that left foot, right foot, that in my opinion, that they need to change that rule.
I also don't understand how George Pickens gets thrown 15 yards out of the end zone before his other foot goes down, basically. Like, his first foot hit the paint, and somehow he can't get another one down before he's out of the back of the end zone.
Billy, next time the Steelers play, don't get distracted by any other parts of the game Just watch George Pickens. He's doing weird things all the time, like in piles after he gets tackled. I noticed it more last night than ever, where I'm like, wait, why? How did his leg do that? I think he just plays weird, but he makes plays, and he's obviously become the most.
I don't think that's
great
good, Diana. I don't think that's good analysis.
No, it is.
That Pickens
it's 100%
just plays
accurate.
weird.
It's the only explanation I have for him not putting that other foot down. What are we doing? Put the other foot down. What is this?
Okay, so this is a real thing. I think some athletes, they're not as clean with their bodies when they're in that moment, when they're dealing with pressure, literal pressure, and trying to make plays. Some are just flimsy and floppy and Gumby like. Truthfully, I was like that as a soccer player. And you can get away with things like that at times, and it makes plays happen. But like we saw last night, that sloppiness hurt him because obviously having just one foot do it, which think about how hard that is. Like, try doing that today when you're walking. Just double hop on one foot. That's hard. I don't think that it's easier to put your other foot down. I don't understand why he didn't do that. But yeah, the takeaway is he plays weird, but he's damn good.
He also just jumped up and elbow dropped someone trying to get over them on a tackle. Did you see that?
What? Yeah, I did see that. How is that not called? What was that?
He just does crazy things out there.
That's
Pickens,
It was a bit of. It was The Rock. It's The Rock's finishing move.
He didn't even
This
have
is
to jump
exactly
out.
It's what I'm saying. You guys think I'm acting nuts. He plays weird.
Yeah, he does. Diana, we were discussing earlier, Chris left a coffee cup in a stairwell, and I'm wondering, do you think it is littering if you do it inside?
Was there coffee in it?
A little bit.
Yeah, and then
If it makes a difference, it's tea, not coffee.
Okay,
Yeah.
it got kicked over. And now there's brown juice all over the.
Because
stairs.
I maintain you can only litter outside. That's it.
It was also, to be fair, it was there because it was raining 2 weeks ago,
Right, it was
and he
raining.
didn't want the
Boring.
cup
Good
to
that you're
get
being
wet.
fair.
Yeah,
It's
and
good.
then he
It's
came
good.
back
Fairness
and he
is
all
saw
the facts.
something
Yes.
growing,
Always
so he
fair.
wanted it to be a
Always
science
fair,
experiment.
Billy Gill.
Yeah.
That's right.
Science.
So essentially, it was like there was no garbage can inside, and he was too lazy to go find one, so he just put it on the stairs.
Exactly.
And it
that's
was
disgusting.
raining. Yes, it is disgusting.
Yeah, but-
and it was
By the way, why is there so much litter in that stairwell?
Yes,
Good question.
Exactly right. Because I
I'm going to get to the bottom of this.
The litter is outside. It's not in the stairwell.
I employ an assortment of savages. Is what the problem is. People who have not been taught anything.
There's also a church here.
So I have a question for you. The other day I was driving and I was chewing gum and I didn't want to chew the gum anymore. I was about to sip my coffee or something. So I wanted to spit it out and I didn't have anything to put it in, but I didn't want to put it in the console. And I just had to make a decision. Do I open the window and throw out the gum? Or do I just stick it on the side of my door until I get to...
You can't do gum because you can harm birds and stuff with gum. But I'm willing to make some exceptions for biodegradable things that feed animals that don't qualify for me as littering. I'm willing to make some. If you take a piece of a banana, not the peel necessarily, but a piece of a banana and throw it in the grass, I think of it as less littering than other kinds of littering.
Thank you for going out on that limb, Dan.
Really? That's how you justify it?
Pretty brave of you, yeah.
You need to be careful with the banana peel. This is the true story. I was
You
walking
can slip
with my
on
son.
it. O'Doyle rules.
My 2-year-old son slipped on a banana peel. I'm like, no, that doesn't really happen, but it did. So you have to be careful. But what about I've done this before where I'm peeling an orange in the car? Mm-hmm. Is the peel? Is that fair?
I think that's less. I think that's more dangerous than the pulp.
It happened to me leaving the train.
No way.
4 months ago.
How do you know?
Yeah, we talked about it. I
Are you
slid
the guy
on
from
it.
Tony's story?
I was like, well, how about
Foot
this?
guy in Kristen's story.
It's
Kirsten's
actually
story.
a thing.
I have
What do
one
you
more.
think
Sorry, Diana, I didn't mean to interrupt you. I have one more Steelers question before we move on. The
we're
Steelers
talking
special teams coordinator, Danny Smith,
litter.
he's having a moment this year, and I wanted to nominate this sound for the club. This was him last week at a press conference.
I'm cut from a different cloth.
Yeah.
That was good.
So he's beloved in the league for years, even before he was in Pittsburgh. Everyone loves Danny. He's all energy. He's obviously, from what you've seen, what you heard, he's older, cut from a different cloth. But he has that unique ability. But by the way, they're winning on special teams. That's what makes him even better, is the fact that unit is become really successful this season. I mean, they're always decent, but this year they're really good. And he's just one of those. Do you see him on the sideline? How many special teams coordinators are standing next to the head coach as much as you see Danny? right? He's in it. He could be the head coach sometimes, the way he behaves on the sideline. He's so in on every single play. I think that's that juice that the guy's like.
Chewing his gum and going, ha, 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 ha.
You left us on a cliffhanger there, Dianna, and we don't know what you did with your gum. I have a suggestion for you if you want it, because straight gum that you step on has somewhat become an endangered species in my life. Like, I used to step on a lot more gum than I do now. It just doesn't happen anymore. So I don't know what you did with yours, but I have an idea of what you can do with it in the future if you're in this situation again.
Please share.
I was thinking, so if you were getting out of your car, you could either, you said put it on the side of your car, or you could spit on the floor. What if you put it on your tire? Because it doesn't really matter if it's on your tire, right? And then no one will step on it. You'll just drive over it, and it just sticks to your tire. Who cares?
My thing is, where do you put it when you're in the car, though? Because that's my issue, right? You're driving. I'm not pulling over to throw my gum out. So where can I put my gum?
That happens to me on planes. I keep the wrapper, though, like inside my pocket just in case. But I don't know what kind of magic trick it is with gum. It never fits back in the wrapper when you go to spit it out. The wrapper's always too small for the ball of gum.
What do you think the most common thing is that people throw out their window when they're driving?
Boogers.
Cigarettes.
Put it on the poll, please, at Le Batard Show. Has gum you step on become an endangered species at Le Batard Show? Among the results from Sunday, Dianna.
I just really need to know what you did with the gum first.
Thank you.
The most interesting one was what? The most interesting of the results from Sundays. I'm just going to go ahead and segue. Once Billy gets to boogers, I decide to go a different direction.
Oh, she was telling a gum story.
That's real.
Okay. Most interesting result from Sunday was blank. You only get to pick one.
Billy, I swallowed the gum just for your
wow.
knowledge.
You'll see it in 7 years.
Yeah, dangerous.
Like witty.
To the Commanders, just the fashion that they won in, the way they did it, that's what that team's been about. It just, every year we see it, there's a team that where the breaks fall their way and they just have something special about them. And I can't believe it's Washington. I usually, it just seems like the gods skip over that team and now they're all in. So the fact that they were able to win that way and just that moment and seeing what that stadium looked like, seeing what the sideline looked like. And to me, my biggest observation as just someone watching it on television, just the fact that their quarterback was so even keeled about it. I know he's got that cool California laid backness about him, but I think that to me, when you can show poise and almost calm in the high moments, you're going to be able to do that in the low ones. And so I think to me that was such a win from just the way he was carrying himself and the way he was talking around about the play. Because how could you not go nuts after that? I mean, every person lost their mind watching that game, whether they cared or not, and just because of the fashion in which they won. And so the fact that the man that threw that ball and completed it and won the game for the team was just acting like it was just a normal run-of-the-mill day, I think that's just nothing but great news for this team. I
saw a ton of investigative journalism being done about the amount of Uncrustables that are consumed by the people in the NFL.
So good.
Love those.
80,000 Uncrustables a year.
Like
what? The Broncos are 700 a week. 700 a week the Broncos shove in their face. You have kids, Dianna. Are you shoving Uncrustables in their maws?
Yeah, I am. I think teams use them the same way parents do. It's just easy. They're made already. They're wrapped. I just found out they're not healthy, so I'm a little upset about that. But they get the job done. Peanut butter and jelly, classic.
It is a favorite around here.
What are the Saints doing? Only 50. Yeah. I mean, jeez.
That graphic was actually predictive analysis for the Thursday Nighter 2 weeks ago. Yeah.
So the Athletic did that. Jason Jenks is the writer, and he did that story. And on our internal communication space at the Athletic, you can see what everyone's working on. And I remember being like, what is that story going to be? And Jason, I love Jason. He's great. He's a good writer. He's creative. I'm like, dud. We'll see what that story is. That thing comes out. That's probably the best story the Athletic has done in the last 6 months. Everyone's talking about it. So it just goes to... It was such a moment of, man, you're just out here digging on trying to find out what's going on with ownership in the New York Jets and the New York Giants building. What direction are these people going? Readers don't care. They want to know about what the guys are eating.
That's right.
I need to chill out and start
That is
tapping into
correct.
more of those fun stories. You know, Dan?
You thought it was a dud. Can you explain to me what the Jordan Love injury was? I haven't quite seen what happened there, where he's walking around and then he just collapses on the sideline.
Yeah, so obviously you know that he dealt with that knee injury earlier in the season. So the fear was that he re-injured it, but the good news out of it, it was not. It was the knee. So good news for the Green Bay Packers and good news for the Green Bay Packers as a whole with trading for Malik Willis with the Tennessee Titans, a trade that I don't really think any of us were going, wow, that's the move of the century. In fact, I think most of us on the other side most of it were looking at the other way going, you think? You sure? Because we saw Malik in Tennessee and it wasn't that great. Well, that may go down by the end of the year as the best move made this last year to supply some depth and obviously some answers for the Packers, knowing that Jordan's knee isn't 100% no matter what, because he just hasn't had time to heal.
Dianna, is Mike McCarthy going to make it this season, or will he be back next season? What do you think's going to happen there?
You think there's a chance he's coming back?
I'm asking
Is
you.
he going to make it the season? How soon? And where's Belichick going to end up?
Oh, okay. So Mike McCarthy will make it through the season, and I think it's because that's just Jerry's way. Jerry said it to my face 2 weeks ago. I'm not doing that. I don't believe in it. Could he change his mind? I mean, John Mara the other day said Joe Shane and Brian Dable are safe. I mean, I've seen The Godfather 2. I know The Kiss of Death. And by the way, Mara's done this before, right? He did it with Joe Judge. He did it with Ben McAdoo. He's come out and been like, nope, we're sticking with these people. And 2, 4, 6 weeks later, they fire these guys. To say that your head coach and GM are safe before it's even Halloween is ridiculous. I think that was a wild move by the Giants. And Jerry hasn't said a word about Mike's future. It's basically just been go perform, AKA, you're a lame duck coach. You haven't gotten a new deal for a reason because you need to go win a Super Bowl. And by the way this Dallas Cowboys team is running the ball and even defending the ground game, I don't see that happening.
What happened with Anthony Richardson? Was he tired?
He was sleepy. Man, that one's a hard one because I've never seen that before. And I think the reaction to it has been pretty wild. Even my co-host Chase Daniel was like, lie, you idiot, lie. Why would you ever tell the media you're tired? And I understand that. And look, today I'm actually expecting it in a few minutes here. They're meeting about discussing a change at quarterback because obviously we know Joe Flacco's there. So I look at it like this. You're Anthony Richardson. You've got the owner, you've got the GM, the head coach, you got teammates all believing in you and confident that you're the guy. They love him in Indy. But you also have a weapon on your team that I know probably 15 other teams would love to have him on their roster, and that's Joe Flacco. So to give any room, any space to allow Joe to take over your job, to me is just dumb and not appreciating the moment and not appreciating this opportunity that you're getting to be the guy. I think that was just I hope that's a really good learning experience for him, but that's going to be a tough situation, I believe, to sell in the locker room, especially to your offensive linemen, guys that are just putting their bodies on the line every single day to protect you, but you're going to take a play out because you got to catch your breath. That's a tough one.
If Aaron Rodgers wanted to play, sorry to cut you off, if he wants to play next season, how many teams would be interested in signing Aaron Rodgers?
It's a good question. It's funny. My instinct right there was going to be like non-zero, but that's not that's not the truth. Because look, even Tom Brady didn't have a great market, and Tom was coming off. Obviously there was a fall off there at the end of the season with him, or his last few years in New England. It obviously was not working, but there was definitely people poking around in Brady's market, but everyone expected that to be way more robust than it was. So. Yeah, I guess my instinct on it would be not that many, but there's always that one owner, that one coach who will go, well, the Jets never know what they're doing. They messed that up. I still believe in him. He's a 4-time MVP. It's still Aaron Rodgers. He's still probably the smartest football mind on any field that you put him on. It's just unfortunate. To me, the question, Stu, is I'm asking it, but I actually kind of think I know the answer. Is he coming back next year? Why would Aaron Rodgers come back next year? Why?
Because this is not the way he wants to end his career. That would be my only guess, and I think he will come back next year.
It's not going to get better after this.
Well,
I think that ship has sailed. I think he's fine with going, this didn't work. I mean, how much longer can he do this? How much longer can he deal with ownership and the carousel of coaches? And he's going to have to deal with a whole new coaching staff, most likely a new GM. And try to find another way to go through this again. I don't know. If he comes back, then he must love pain.
Scoop City is the name of the podcast. She's the senior NFL insider for The Athletic. She'll be with us the entirety of the season. Thank you, Dianna. Good talking to you. Good seeing you again, as always.
Thanks, guys.
Stugotz, more muscular.
Mm-hmm. I have lost 10 pounds.
Have you?
Yeah, using my Peloton. I've had the Peloton in my house. So my daughter, she wanted me to get a Peloton. Yeah. I did. She used it a couple of times.
Great endorsement.
But once she left to college and the Peloton was just sitting there in my office and it wasn't being used, I said, you know what? I got to use this. And I have lost 10 to 12 pounds, Billy.
So I started using Peloton as a bike. Obviously, that's like what they're known for. But recently, I discovered all of the other classes that they have. So they have like a series of weightlifting classes. They have programs, which for me, the programs is great because I don't have to think about what I'm doing. Sure. If not, I just go and I pick a class at random and I don't know that I'm actually accomplishing anything.
I would like some recommendations on classes because I keep going to the same class.
Okay.
It's the Grateful Dead class, by the way.
You do like a 4-week core program with Emma Lovewell.
Right.
I would recommend that one.
Okay.
Anyone can do that. Any level starts out, easy, and then you work your way up. And then there's like a core program 2 that you can do after core program 1 if you want to do that. Yeah, if you graduate.
Wait a second. You have to graduate course 1 to get to course 2, the harder course?
Well, you can start at course 2 if you want, but I eased my way in. I did course 1 first. Then you can do some strength classes with Andy. Love a strength class with Andy. He really puts me through it. I get up and I'm like a sweaty mess. And I'm kind of disgusting and I love it. You know the thing about Peloton, Stugotz?
What?
Peloton coaches, they walk the walk.
Really?
Yeah.
Do they talk the talk?
They have sub 3-hour marathon runner coaches. They have military trained athlete coaches, former college basketball player coaches, and so many other well-rounded coaches on their team. All this experience really shows in their classes. You're never short of challenging. You can do some resistance band classes. I got some resistance bands lately.
You're my teacher.
Am I?
Yeah.
No, I'm not. Well, I just go with the program so then I don't have to think because I don't know. I don't actually know what I'm doing. Anyways, what's the like Mr. Olympia, right? Is that what it's called?
Yes.
The one where you go and you're like lifting
Tony
like
Atlas.
giant boulders.
Yeah.
Hey, we should talk to Magnus again.
That's Mr. Olympia.
Yeah.
Yes.
What did I say?
Olympus.
Did I?
I don't know.
Anyways, find your push, find your power with Peloton at onepeloton.com.
Hi, I'm Ben Stiller from the Academy Award snub movie Dodgeball. This election is a lot like Dodgeball. Kamala Harris is the average Joe underdog, and no, this isn't a time for jokes. You know what? It's way too important. Donald Trump wants to terminate the Constitution. Project 2025 will give him nearly unlimited power. We can't let him get anywhere near the White House. So, vote for Kamala Harris. Yeah, see, that was better. The serious version was much better, right?
Paid for by Harris for President.
So, you want to be a marketer. It's easy. You just have to score a ton of leads and figure out a way to turn them all into customers. Plus, manage a dozen channels, write a million blogs, and launch 100 campaigns all at once. When that's done, simply make your socials go viral and bring in record profits. No sweat. Okay, fine. It's a lot of sweat. But with HubSpot's AI-powered marketing tools, launching benchmark-breaking campaigns is easier than ever. Get started at HubSpot.com/marketers.
Don Le Batard. Go ahead, Billy. Ask him your question.
Is gymnastics possibly corrupt?
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Stugotz.
I got some phlegm in my mouth, yeah.
It's okay. Vacation.
Is gymnastics possibly corrupt?
This is the Don Le Batard Show with the Stugotz.
Stugotz, I believe that you alleged last night that last night was a baseball night for you. It was not a football night because you were not interested in watching the now 6-2 Steelers against the Giants. Unfortunately, and this bums me out because I wanted to see the entirety of a tense, dramatic series. I wanted New York's heart to be crushed in the most dramatic of fashions, not swept away very quickly. Right now on Netflix, Meadowlark Media has one of the top 10 things on Netflix, with the only time in sports where a team has rallied from a 3-0 deficit. It was against the Yankees. It was the 2004 Boston Red Sox. Now the Yankees find themselves down 3-0 against the Dodgers. Nobody but Soto has done anything in the World Series for the Yankees. Their offense, this is how they're
Verdugo hit a home run last night.
Okay, very little has been done outside. It's not an important
Fat Joe
correction.
performed last night also,
yes, he did. I like that. Well, you say for some reason. I like that Ice Cube entrance at Dodger Stadium. Did you not? Oh, what's that sound? What's that sound? You didn't like the Ice Cube entrance?
It's fine for your demographic. Not mine.
Ice Cube wasn't standing all over the mound, though. The grounds crew had to be freaking out about that. Fat Joe was like tap dancing on that mound before the game started.
Yeah, and Tim's rude question. Do we think Fat Joe was the first choice?
Jay-Z was clearly the first
Jay-Z would
choice.
have been the first choice, making the Yankee cap more famous than the Yankees did. My demo is the only one that likes Ice Cube coming out at Dodger Stadium.
Well, Verdugo liked it. He was jumping around. He was excited. We were worried that Verdugo was going to have a big game too, and it was going to be Ice Cube's fault, right? Is that not what everybody was thinking?
No.
I saw what are you talking about? I saw it all over the interwebs. He was dancing as Ice Cube was singing. There was talk, there was scuttlebutt around the baseball communities that maybe Ice Cube coming out was going to have the opposite effect that it was intended to because of how into it Verdugo was. It ended up being, not a big deal. Verdugo didn't have a big game. Yesterday he had a better game. But I think people were also talking about the Ice Cube curse because Shohei Ohtani got injured to the extent that yesterday he was in a sling in the introductions. Now, he still played, but he was in a sling. Something or nothing.
Always a good... Always a good game to play, something or nothing. But if you're in a sling, you're showing off to everybody that you're in a sling.
You are. You're telling everyone you're hurt. He's batting .091 in the World Series. Best player in the world.
And he's still great, and it can happen over a 3-game stretch.
And they don't
1 for 10
not
over
to him.
And they don't need him to win the World Series. They don't need him to win the World Series, and now there's talk that they're just going to go and get Juan Soto also.
Yes, that's right.
Here's the thing that I don't understand, Dan, because I'm like you. I don't like to see the Yankees succeed. I hate the Yankees. I'll even say I hate the Yankees. Growing up, I did not like the Yankees. They would just go out and they'd buy championships, and they were in the World Series every single year. And it was always Bond. It was like the Yankee way, this, and they just outspend everyone. And here's the problem, is that the Dodgers are the exact same thing. So I find it hard to root for the Dodgers over the Yankees. However, I still hate the Yankees because I hated them as a little boy, and I'm not going to grow out of that. I'm always going to hate the Yankees, even though the Dodgers are just as bad as the Yankees, and the Mets are worse than all of them, except they're not paying the right people, and it's not working out for the Mets. They're literally paying, I think, more money for people to play for other teams presently than they are for people playing for their own team. It's wild.
It did work out. They went to the NLCS.
They did not. No. When you're spending $300 million a year on payroll, you're not the cute little, but we made it to the NLCS. This is a big
Chris
thing.
Cody.
No, that's not that. When you spend $300 million a year, you need to go further than we made it to the NLCS. Unfortunately, Stugotz, that's what your loser fan base has become accustomed to. Is this was a great season. We just made it to the NLCS. We're the Mets. Look at us. Go get them, Tiger. But that's not how it works. When you're spending that much money, you need to win. You're not paying for Justin Verlander to pitch for other teams. You're not paying for Max Scherzer to go win a World Series on other teams. Like, that's not what you spend $300 million for. Steve Cohen needs to get it together.
Those 2 weeks, though, what a nice little story it was.
I've watched all the games this series, and I don't know why I thought it was fixed, but we're still getting balls and strikes wrong. Because that was a bummer. You have Juan Soto on deck representing the tying run, and Torres gets called out on a ball.
On a terrible call. You don't get to Soto, which is what you want to see.
I had leaned up from my bed. I was like, okay, here we go. This is the moment. Yankees, Dodgers, Juan Soto representing tying run at the dish. This is great. And then I was like, what the hell was that? That was at his chin.
Yep.
This series has been an utter disaster for the Yankees. I don't know how you do it, but I also don't know how you keep Aaron Boone after he gets you to a World Series, but he makes the boneheaded Aaron Boone. I tried to warn you guys about Aaron Boone 3 years ago when I was in Detroit, and I said you should have fired him then, and no one listened to me, and now look what's happening,
They're
Yankees
in the
fans.
World Series.
Yeah, they're in the World Series, and he cost them. They don't have the starting pitching. You need Garrett Cole to win you the Garrett Cole games, and he's taking Garrett Cole out with 85 pitches, which is an absurdity.
Yep.
Aaron Judge, you can't expect to carry your team the entire postseason, and he hasn't done anything in the World Series so far. And Giancarlo Stanton, who at a point had like 5 straight hits as home runs, obviously that's not a pace that you're going to keep up with. He doesn't know how to run. I don't understand the fundamentals and the lack of fundamentals on this Yankees team. He's just slow to begin with.
Worst secondary lead
They
I've
have
ever seen.
had base running issues the entire season. But the way that he got thrown out yesterday is like unfathomable. How he slid almost like halfway between third and home for some reason. He's slow as molasses. I don't understand this team.
They're a bunch of keg softball players, and they fool their poor old announcer, John Sterling, who's calling
He's
the last
another
2
one.
games.
He's
Let's
another
play the
one.
sound. Just shut up for a second.
And the breaking ball, there it goes. Deep left center field, and Teoscar is there to make the catch. Oh, did I get fooled on that? What, with that swing and the ball majestically going to left field, Susan, I actually thought it was going to be out, and it wasn't close.
He quit on this team earlier this season.
Yes, he did.
And then they just like, yeah, sure. I think he's Mac Brown. Like, what are we doing here? That guy said straight up, like, retired in the middle of the season. And then everyone's like panicked because like when like 80 whatever year old he is just retires, like, oh no. Like, this isn't good. They're like, no, he's in perfect health. And it's like, okay, well, I guess we're just moving on. And they're like, well, we're going to go to the World Series. Like, hey, I'm back, Jack. And it's like, no, you're not. Quitter.